This is sunrise over Hurricane Ian right now, moving over actually portions here of Cuba. That's what you're seeing after this morning's early landfall. Now a strong major hurricane, which is Category 3 or higher. Now the expectations are for Ian to end up moving up into the Gulf of Mexico toward the Florida coast. And that's the concern right here for where that ends up moving. But let's talk about that, because as the track continues to go, and we just continue to walk all the way up this way, the expectation is for it to become a Category 4, a very strong major hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico, the very warm waters. We're going to explain why that's important in a second. But the expected landfall is going to be very early in the day on Thursday, and that's what you can see right here, because once we go even further into the end of our week here, the issue is the storm system actually gets a chance to somewhat stall. It slows down very quickly, and that leads to a much heavier rain chance as well going further forward with it. So when it comes to these hurricane formations, how does this actually happen? Well, first and foremost, you need the water continuously rising up into the storm. That helps to build that storm system. You need 80-degree water temp or warmer to help to fuel that system as well. Now, here's the thing that goes along with it. You need a lot of moisture and you need a lot of that storm activity to continue to build closer and closer together. But if the winds are too strong and they change too much with height, you can actually tear that storm apart. It's what we call shear. Now, those ocean temps are also important because they must be over 80 degrees, of course, to keep that hurricane flowing. But when it actually comes to it then, here comes the storm, because as we get further into it, you get this storm, this little spot forming. That's just the beginning of it. That's what's called a tropical depression, right? That's where you're starting to get a little bit of organization, but you're not quite there just yet. Now, winds are really around 30 miles an hour or less. Not that bad. It's a good storm system, absolutely. You don't want to be on the water in the middle of it. But as things start to strengthen, that's where things become more of an issue. Tropical storms are when you start to get that larger circulation, a bit more of an issue here that comes along with it. And that's where the winds start to increase. You end up getting winds up to almost 73 miles an hour. 74 on the Saffir-Simpson scale is where hurricane force winds begin, and you end up getting that stronger system. And that's what you get right here, what we're looking at with Ian, and of course much stronger than that. 74 or faster wind speeds. Ian has been really around the 120s for a good chunk of the last few hours. Expected to strengthen even further as it goes into the Gulf, but you get that strong rotation, that strong circulation that goes along with it, and as it buzzsaws along the shoreline, there's one area with that you don't want to be in. You divide this into quadrants, okay? So you have the north portion, the south portion, the east portion, and the west portion, and that's the main four quadrants of a hurricane. That forward quadrant, that forward right quadrant, basically sitting in the passenger seat. Think of it from noon to 3 o'clock on a clock. That's the worst part, where the winds are the most intense. The surge push there is rather strong right at the forefront of it, and you can really get hit quite hard from the eye wall in that specific quadrant. But really, that whole side there's really no safe portion when it comes to a hurricane, especially one of the strength that Ian is currently moving into the Gulf. But watching where this moves in along the shoreline, or the coastline rather, of Florida is going to be extremely important here over the next few hours and over the next day and a half as the system churns toward the state.